want to talk about how do we engage guests when they come to our church. People come to church for two key reasons. One is they need to experience the love of God. Second is they need to experience love from other people. For most people coming to church, haven't yet experienced the love of God. And so the very first thing they're going to run into is whether or not they experience love from other Christians. And that's ultimately what sets them up for the encounter with God. That's why it's so important for us that we take seriously the whole guest ministries and guest assimilation process in our church. So when I talk about guest ministries, I'm saying that very first Sunday, what that looks like for them and how we follow up with them. And then guest assimilation is how do we take that initial experience where they've experienced the love of people and the love of God and translate that into long-term discipleship. When we talk about loving guests well and showing them the love of God through our actions, that starts before they even come to your church. That starts on your website. That starts in how they initially hear about the church. But then for sure, the moment they set foot on your campus to the moment they leave, they need to experience the love of God tangibly through the interactions they have with people. Some of that's going to come from your church culture and the way that people interact. And then some of that's going to come from the processes you set in place. In the link below of your email, you're going to see an outline of what we do at Antioch Waco related to our guest ministries. I want to specifically hone in, though, on what we do after they have that first visit. So guest ministries is not just greeting them when they walk through the door, it's also following up with them after their visit. And something we've done at Antioch Waco that's made a tremendous impact has been making a phone call to every single guest we possibly can. So that starts with the obvious ones. Those are the guest cards that we get. We have them in the seats. We ask them to put it in the offering box, and I know a lot of you guys do the same. We've also talked about our next living room, a space we created for guests to come, where they fill out information, we orient them to the church, and then we follow up from that as well. But a third category has been kids check-in, and that's one that I see a lot of churches don't do, is you have new parents coming. Every single family that checks in a kid at your church generally has to fill out their contact information. And so they don't even know we're going to call them, but I always call. We call the next day, and we try to make a rule that we're going to make our phone calls by the end of day Monday. And the purpose of these calls, whether it's a kids check-in, to somebody who filled out a card, to a website form, to somebody that came to Next, the purpose is all the same. We want to let them know that they're loved, they're welcomed. And the way that I view that call is I am the pastor of the guest. They don't know anybody else yet at this church, so I'm their pastor, even if it's just for a week or two. And so I'm getting to know them, I'm asking their story, how'd they end up in Antioch, what was their experience like, and then anything I can do to help them get more connected. This is not the time to hard sell them on life groups or any other ministry of the church. Instead, this is a time to listen and to get connected to who they are as a person. I always leave my phone number behind. I say, hey, anything you need about getting connected to Antioch, please call me anytime, text me anytime. My goal is to help you find your space here at this church. What these calls do is they demonstrate the fact that, hey, we really do want you to be a part of Antioch, and no matter how big or small your church is, people want to know they're wanted. They don't want to come to a church, no matter how dynamic your worship is, where they're going to always be on the back row. They want to know somebody wants them there, and that call is just one example of trying to go the extra mile to communicate the love of God. Hopefully that's helpful. We're going to do the next video is going to follow up on how do we do long-term assimilation to actually connecting people to life.